This is the F1000 podcast. I'm Chaps, I'm back again with Mike, and we're ready to go for season 3 of the program for the Bahrain Grand Prix. Alright, Mike, we waited 3 months. I analyzed 24 hours of practice, testing, 3 more hours of practice. We finally have a competitive session. I think I learned a little bit, but I don't think we got the pecking order that I was hoping we would get from the first quali session. I don't know, how are you feeling?
I kind of agree. I mean, it seemed like in representative conditions, right? So we saw FP2 and quali with similar conditions. You kind of thought that you would see something shape up that would give you a hint as to what the Grand Prix tomorrow is going to look like. But I don't know. And so I don't like when I think when things aren't as established, bookmakers tend to be extremely conservative with the odds that you get.
Yep.
So it's hard to extract value. I mean, okay, let's call a spade a spade. Betting on F1 is like impossible, right? Like, it is.
Wait, we've done all right.
Yeah, we've done all right. But like, okay, maybe I'll go a little diatribe at the beginning here. So like, think about what we're doing. If you were betting on an NFL football game, and the Bucs were playing the Rams on Sunday, and like Thursday and Friday and Saturday they played like televised scrimmages every
Right.
single day, like. Then they play the game on Sunday. Like any leans that you thought or any sort of pattern that you think that you might find before the game and you could try to exploit when you are going through the odds, like obviously the bookmakers they would have seen that too. There's so much data that's available to everybody, and this is such a data-driven sport that it makes it hard to find the value. But I still think that's what we do best, right? I still think we have an opportunity to do that.
Throw a wrench into and I'll use your analogy. I forget the team
Sure.
you threw out, but let's assume Tom Brady is one of the quarterbacks. Yeah, in those practice scrimmages that they show, he's throwing left-handed, and everyone thinks he's left-handed. And then secretly it's like, oh no, I'm actually right-handed and I have way more power with my right hand.
Yeah.
Which is what we saw with the Red Bulls.
Things like that, like the deliberate sandbagging that's happening. And like, you're right, that just makes it even more confusing and difficult to do. And that's why, you could really argue how much can you yearn from practice sessions. I mean, we try to do the best we can, but how much can you really glean from the testing that took place too on the exact same track? Like what is of value in similar conditions? This is the hardest part about doing this. But hey man, we're going to dive in. We're going to try to do it like we do every week when there's a race.
Call another spade a spade. It is race 1, right? So
yeah,
again, like we don't have a few races of a pecking order to develop. So I don't know, maybe I'm going to be a little bit more conservative. I've jotted down a number of ideas here. I will tell you though, I think we learned a couple of pecking order aspects.
Yeah.
Max is the best. Okay. Let's start at the top. Max is the best. Every driver is talking about he's in a league of his own. We're all competing for P2. I also think we can be pretty certain that Alpine's the worst. And I'm fairly certain that for the next few weeks, we're going to see the 5 cars that go out in Q1 are both Alpines, both Saubers, and the Williams that Alex Albon is not driving.
Yeah. I mean, like I totally agree with you. I think that there's got to be more from the Sauber side of things to extract out of that package. Because I think mechanically they made that change to the suspension. You should be finding a little bit more stability with the floor, and they just need to maybe figure out the setup aspects of the car, or potentially, make some upgrades to the aero package. But yeah, Alpine is trash, man. They're they're in for a tough ride at the beginning of the year.
10 kilos overweight with all that carbon on the car.
I know. It's just horribly embarrassing for a factory team. I don't even know how that could possibly happen at this point. I mean, I get it. They're just like the rest of the grid, essentially. They're trying to go in a different direction. Mm-hmm. But you would think that they'd be able to pivot because of the fact that they're Renault, they're a factory team. You think that they'd be able to pivot a lot more effectively than this. But
the big problem for them is they messed up the engine, and we're under an engine freeze. So how
100%.
much can you do when you have the worst engine on the grid by far, and you're the only one using it?
No, I know.
I got to give Matt Trumpets on the Missed Apex podcast. I didn't think of this myself. He made the point, maybe Alpine sells to Andretti, that they're sick of it. They're not going anywhere. Andretti's stalled in his bids.
I don't know. I mean, they just had all that investment come in last year. I don't know, man. Like that, and there's such a proud history there with Renault and championships and.
But did that history start dying when they moved off the Renault name?
Well, I think the reality is they just are not organizationally set up in a strong, cohesive way, right? Like how many times they're like, I think I mentioned this in the last podcast. They're French Ferrari, right? Like that's
Yeah.
kind of what they are. Although Ferrari just still manages to extract like, third place in the constructors at this point, which is still embarrassing for them and the resources that they have at their disposal and the
Yeah.
brand and all that. Renault and Alpine are just somehow worse, but I don't think they're going anywhere. I just think that they need to understand that they need to commit to a direction. Like what is Alpine? Are they going to get? And they have to change. They have to be they have to have a better power unit. Obviously, that's going to be the biggest thing for 2026.
It's an engine freeze. Yeah. So are
Yeah.
they just stuck at the back now till 26?
It's embarrassing. Especially with the way that they developed that power unit with this whole intention of we're going to be super aggressive because we understand that the regulations allow us to improve reliability. And they were not aggressive theoretically because the power unit is by far the worst on the grid. So
Do you think they both finished the race?
oh, what a good way to start it. Maybe not. Like of all the races that they probably might not finish,
Jolyon Palmer in the post-quali show, he was already making the points. Now, I don't know if it's confirmed or not, but he was making the points that they're expecting Alpine to just do a pit lane start, that they're going to bring a bunch of new components to the car overnight and treat it as another testing session. So I don't know. Does one of those components fail?
Man, that is.
Do they hit each other? They're starting right beside each other.
Do they hit each other? Like what do you? Well, do you want to take us through that on the book?
Let's sure. Look. Yeah, I don't know. It's the first one I wrote. It literally is the top of my page. For the people, Mike's gonna look through the book together. I have looked through. I have some ideas. Yeah. The very first one at the top is Alpine both classification. I'd say no. So I'm not trying to pick that only one finishes. Just they both won't.
Yeah.
Plus 225.
I mean, that's pretty. I think
it's not my favorite line. I didn't put a star on it, but especially if they're going to be trying things tomorrow.
Yeah. Yeah, I know that. But they had so many issues last year with the collisions on top of the mechanical failures. If they were ever going to, they don't have a good handle on this car. So, I mean, I would say probabilistically, they have a very high percent. I mean, plus 225, actually, when you look at it, how does that compare with the rest of the board?
They're the shortest.
Take us to that. Yeah, I'm sure they are the shortest.
I almost forgot to have the screen share. You're right. I should have shared that. Okay.
Yeah. Show me.
Yeah. Both cars to be classified. They are the shortest.
I bet they are.
Oh, it's dropped since I made my note.
Oh my. People are on it.
175.
Yeah, people are on it. I mean,
probably because of Jolyon's comments about
I bet
using it as a test session.
Yeah, I mean that's already a 50-point movement going shorter. So okay, yeah. You might want to put a star beside that because that
I'm gonna put a small star.
If we go through the book and kind of like we talked about, we have a difficult time ascertaining what we truly think is going to play out in the race. Then maybe you got to start looking for some of those. We kind of talk about it like ancillary bets, right? Like bets that kind of live and actually they thrive with chaos, which it seems to happen with every F1 race. So that might be a good way to start the season. It's just by fading the team that we, I think everybody collectively agrees is the worst on the grid at this point.
Remember a week ago we were talking about them finishing worse than 7th? You want to revisit your position on that?
Yeah, man, I don't know. Like did I say that? I didn't say that. I thought they were going to finish 7th though. Did I say that?
I said worse than 7th and you're like, there's no way.
Well, I still think no way. I think that there's going to be a point in the season that's going to be probably the latter third of the season, but they with all the resources that they have and the two drivers that are capable.
Yeah, they're both race winners.
They're gonna score. Yeah, they're both race winners. They had 3 podiums or something last year. Like they're gonna score points at some point. They're gonna put this together. 2, I guess there's 2.
I would say, I mean, at the end of the day, picking a car to DNF is an ancillary bet. I know I led the show by pitching it, but that's just because they're clearly the last place. There might be better leans, but I'll put a small star.
Okay. Mark that down. Mark that down for now.
In terms of other pecking order information, it's so mixed at the top. The fact that we go Max on pole and then you go Ferrari, Merc, Ferrari, Red Bull, Aston, 2 McLarens, then another Merc. I mean, I don't know. So Lewis is ninth, George is third, but
Yeah.
Lewis was very open about the fact that he made a different setup choice and that he chose the setup more for the race.
He usually does, right?
He
Like
usually
that's kind of
does,
yeah.
but there is a lot of fast cars between him and George. Do you
Yeah.
have a do you have a set? Everyone talked out of testing that Mercedes has great race pace.
Yep. Great
I
is
wish we
what
would have seen more
relative.
out of them in qualifying.
I mean, I think the race pace in terms of some of the simulations that have been put together and the comparables. I mean, I think the race pace is weirdly pretty well where they've always been under these regulations, which is like they're projecting to be third behind. Yeah, it doesn't look like the McLaren because of all the slow corners and the nature of this track. It doesn't look like the McLaren is going to be a real world beater tomorrow. And Mercedes kind of typically on race pace is usually just slightly behind Ferrari, but they've both drivers have been a little bit better at managing tires. Plus, the Ferrari concept was harder on tires. So they look like they're kind of slotted into the same spot. Are you considering like does Lewis because of his setup change and because of his experience does he have a better shot at finishing ahead of George from ninth? Do you want to even look into that? What about the matchups?
So if we were the matchup between them,
Yeah, just like maybe
yeah,
take a peek at that.
I think if we were further into the season, I might be willing to look at something like that. Here's so Lewis is plus 250, George is minus 350. I
Yeah,
am like I got to be honest. I don't know what's going to happen in those top 6 positions. Max wins for sure. Everyone's saying that.
yeah.
Does Checo find his way to the podium? Does George stay there? I don't. Ferrari saying they've figured out their tire deg, but I don't. We're not going to know until we see them do 40 something laps tomorrow.
Yeah. Okay, so on the DEG issue for Ferrari, so there was I think some important information that came out of testing. It looked like, I think, comparable to the car on track last year, and that's one of the benefits of having testing take place at the same track year over year, is that I think on the soft compounds this weekend, they were getting like 50% more tire life out of
Mm-hmm.
them, right? So that, I mean, it's just binary, right? Like yes or no. Did you improve how long the tires last on the car going around the track? And it seems like yes. The answer is yes.
Yeah.
That is, I don't know if that's a relative gain to the field or if the field overall is going to improve as a whole, and they still theoretically. I think that they have addressed that problem. No better track to find out right away than on Bahrain, which is historically very difficult on the tires on the rears, right? So
Yeah. If this was last year, I would feel very confident looking at George with tire maintenance throughout the race to easily just get Charles. He's only one spot behind him
yeah,
over the course of the race.
yeah,
I don't think I feel that way until we
no,
see how the Ferrari works for one
yeah.
race.
Yeah, I
I'm
do.
gonna,
I mean, yeah, my gut feeling right away, based on what we've seen, and we've got a lot of data to come through, but like the Mercedes concept is so green and so raw that it would almost not make any sense that I think they're going to be kind of where they were last year, starting with the new concept, right? Which is I think is a good thing. Like it's not like they took a massive step backwards to the field, right?
which they very well could have.
They could have
Yeah.
making this change. And then they're going to, and like we talked about in our future show, they're just going to, over the course of the year, extract a lot more performance out of this concept than they ever could out of the W14 concept. So,
And to that
like,
point, race 1 is not where all that
no,
extraction happens. So
no.
yeah.
So I think the top four are going to be Red Bulls and Ferrari, unless something else happens. And then Ferrari historically has gone well around this track. We know that for the last 2 years, this concept that Ferrari is using is good in slow speed, right? And they've got the power unit to be able to keep up with the field on the straights. So, like, I don't know what's that. Is there value in?
No, well, that's what I
there's
brought
not,
us to
right?
the
Like
team
that's the thing.
matchups.
Yeah, I'm
Ferrari's
looking at it
minus
now.
300. Whereas,
Yeah.
and that was my point. Last year, I
Yeah.
probably would have loved looking at this plus 225 on Merck because you
Right.
have George right there. But I want to see the tires in action, and I
Yeah.
want to see Merck prove to us that they have the race pace once. I think there's other things that we can look at down the order.
Mhm.
There's someone in the top 10, Mike, that is a sore thumb that I don't think belongs to be there.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that's
Right?
Nico Hulkenberg, obviously.
Nico Hulkenberg.
Yeah.
Now, the Haas has said, hey, we focused all our offseason on race pace.
Yeah.
Is that going to mean anything? Or
Okay.
there's no
Well,
way Hulk finishes this race in the points, right?
is there like a is there a fade that exists for Nico Hulkenberg? Okay, so here's my thoughts on Haas. I mean, I think that it obviously surprised everybody that Hulkenberg was able to do what he did in qualifying,
Mm-hmm.
considering how much the Haas team has talked about, like you said, that they've spent all of their time in testing and practice trying to improve the long run pace of the car, right? So that they don't go backwards in the race. And I guess like if we think that Ferrari has gotten on top of the DEG issue by virtue of how much of the mechanical structure of the car is shared with Haas, you would think that some of that would bleed into the Haas performance, right?
Maybe. Or
Maybe,
does it
right? Like
take
it's not.
half a year to catch up?
I don't know. And so this is the hardest part about the Nico Hulkenberg pick is it like are we just seeing them do what they did in 2023? Like did they all of this talk is it just not going to amount to anything and he's going to move backwards in the race or did they actually make a car that somehow Nico could drive into the top 10 in qualifying because he's very good over one lap
He is.
and actually has the ability to manage the tires enough to stay up there.
We got to remember this is a reset for Haas. Gunther's
Yeah.
out. AO is in. And they
Yeah.
were very honest about, hey, don't expect anything from us early on. So even all of these race pace, focus, and we're gonna be better at race. They weren't saying you're gonna see that in race one. So
No.
I'm
And they
tempted to think this is
yeah,
more of last year's Hulkenberg. He's
probably.
got a great flyer lap, but he's
Yeah.
gonna come back during the race.
Yeah. He might not drop as far as he would have last year, right? And I think it's fair to assume that that's probably not the case. Like
I have
who's outside
two.
of the points? Like who's outside
That's
of the points that's coming in, right? Like I think Yuki has a chance to come in.
okay.
I think, right? And I think he's P11, right?
Yep. Yuki's
Right?
P11, Stroll is
Like
P12,
Lance,
Albon's
Ricardo,
P13, and then
all of
Ricardo's
them,
14.
yeah, all of them I think on projected race pace have a chance to come in.
The one I wrote down was Stroll. Because part of it is because his teammate is up there. So
Yeah.
he's the slower of the teammates, but we see the potential in the car with what Alonso did. Whereas the other three are the team's lead. They're the higher position out of the teammates. So I don't know. Does this race end and we're looking back and in hindsight's 2020 and it's like, well, yeah, Hulk was never going to be in the points, and of course both Astons were going to make it in there. And I'm looking at Stroll in the points when I say that.
Yeah. Yeah, maybe.
I know it's icky to go on Stroll. I know.
I mean, it's icky, and it's icky to be in that like mushy midfield race one. Well, anything can happen on any race, I guess. But like, okay,
But that was the point that I made. That was the point
Yeah.
I was making. I think the midfield is less mushy than the top of the field right now
Okay.
for race one.
No, that's fair. No, I'm just saying it's a chaotic midfield, right? When you look at it on paper, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Right. So that doesn't mean that it's not something that we should consider. And yeah, the Aston Martin is an interesting. I mean, it does. I think because of the rear limitation of Bahrain, it does seem like we know some of the inherent traits of the Aston Martin would be beneficial here, right? Like it does tend to preserve its rear tires a little bit better. But I don't know how much of that is the design philosophy of the car, how much of that maybe has been lost with some of the changes that have happened. We know that they obviously take the Mercedes rear suspension, and we talked about how that's different this year.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't. It could be an improvement even over how they managed their tires last year, and we'll see that. Like, is it just too big of a task for Lance Stroll? I mean, the guy finished what?
To get two places?
He finished P6 last year with two broken hands. I was going to say that
with two broken wrists. Now,
yeah,
last year is not this year. It never will be. But
last year's not this year. That's a classic line. Last year's not this year.
Sure. Yeah.
They do say that.
It's not going to repeat itself. But, and again, I circle back to the fact that Alonso's in 6. So that car has the potential to be up there. Now, Stroll's never going to match Alonso. But is the RB the carb? Is its potential 11th or 10th? I liked Lance. My gut was who's out of the top 10 right now that we can look at to just take Hulk's spot. Nothing crazy has to happen. I don't think Hulk finishes in the points. So one of those drivers right there is going to take it.
Okay. My initial reaction is no. Like I don't
want
to take Lance Stroll at -138. I think it's entirely possible that the V-Carb, Visa, whatever they are, either Danny or Yuki, both of them even potentially come in. Like I think that car. Here's what we know about.
Yep.
Not that it's not the RB19. Like we kind of talked about that, and it isn't the RB19. It has the same mechanical characteristics as the RB19, but it's a different aero package. But what we know about that car is that on balance, it's a race pace car versus a qualifying car.
I'm very optimistic with this V carb.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people are, and I don't want to overhype it, obviously, too. But I wouldn't be surprised if, and I don't think that those two drivers are any better or any worse than Lance Stroll. Like, you know what I mean? But I tend to think that they might be able to extract more. I don't like betting against the wild card, I guess, at this point. I don't know. I don't think that necessarily means that I want to bet on the wild card, but it just complicates like what those final point scoring positions are going to look like. Maybe we look elsewhere first before we start trying to pick who's going to finish in the top 10.
Okay. Here was the second angle that I had for Hulk coming out of the points, and you kind of led me there yourself. Now it's changed. When I wrote it down, it was 188. It's 250 now.
Okay.
But the V carb over the Haas in a matchup. And I believe you just started your point by saying the Visa Cash App is definitely better than the Haas. Now this doesn't need to be in the points. They can both drop all the way down the grid.
Yeah.
But I'm looking at the V carb to just be ahead of Hulk.
I mean,
really.
That's a pretty good.
And you have Yuki one spot off. It's changed, like it's moved 70 points since I wrote it down.
Yeah. Yeah. Like, I mean, you know that if we take the Visas, then they're just going to be, Yuki's going to smash into somebody, or Danny, like a wing's going to fly off and hit. I know. Well, we've been in this position before. It's fine. There's no reason not to take them. Like minus 250, the reason the line's moving is because people are optimistic about this car and that there's pace in it. There's race pace in it. I'm optimistic about it too. Right. So I would mark that one down as a shorter bet, minus 250. Like it's going to start moving probably very quickly too. It already has from 188. So yeah, like that. But I don't know if I wouldn't do minus 275. Like if we finish a show, it's sitting at minus 250, then I'm interested to some degree. Okay. Right. Yeah. Because I do think
I was interested at 188. I mean, I don't even know if I would have jotted it at 250.
Yeah, that's fair. Okay, don't start, but just maybe mark it down. It's an interesting thing to look at for sure.
Let's stay on the teams though, because there's a couple more here. We'll stay towards the back.
Okay.
Sauber and Williams.
Okay.
This has moved 100. This has moved 80 points on me already.
On the Williams? Yeah. You like the Williams, and it's moved to minus 225.
I had it at 163 when I wrote it down.
Yeah, and I mean, like
for your reference, people, that was like 20 minutes ago. So
yeah, so things are moving and shaking here.
Yeah.
Okay. Fuck. It's just like I really can't commit to a concept here. With the Sauber, the only thing that concerns me is that we know that Bottas.
I know with his ASMR videos, and he's all like,
"That's so cool.
The car is going to be a surprise." Valtteri.
Yeah. No, it's like I think that. I would not bet against him. So we've kind of talked about this last year too. I don't know what it is, like the slippery, sandy tracks. Like the guy goes to the desert and he's a wizard. So he could just drag that car into like 11th, 12th, or 13th. And that might be enough to beat Alex Albon. Like I don't know. Williams barely got the car to the track, right? Like I don't know if they know enough about that car at this point. That's my only concern. Like I think again, I'm optimistic for Williams too, and I guess I kind of agree with the concept that they have in terms of how they develop the car, right? They
have a direction. They finally have a foundation, and I think James Vowles is the right guy to lead them forward.
100%. But I don't think that you're going to see like massive leaps and bounds this year. There's still like my understanding is that they were still like developing the car using Excel spreadsheets and stuff. Like it's.
Okay, but I don't think this needs leaps and bounds for Albon to just continue to be ahead of the Saubers.
Right, but I guess I don't know if that's enough. I'm just not convinced that this car, like even if you just get last year's Alex Albon and you get last year's Valtteri Bottas, like is it minus 225 on Williams? Like where's Bottas starting?
Bottas
17, 18.
They're 16 and 17, the two Saubers.
16. So the 3 spots for Albon, like is that? I don't know, man. I don't know. Minus 225. Okay. I'm not convinced.
But I have one more team, and I'm going to bring it closer to the top for you because.
Okay.
What was it? Yeah, McLaren and Aston Martin.
Okay.
This one hasn't moved.
Yeah.
But I won't tell you who I'm on until. Well, who would you go here?
I mean, the fact that we've kind of talked about this before, like we like the two drivers versus the one driver, right? And
Mhm.
I understand that, but the the even money on Alonso starting ahead of the McLarens, and the fact that again
He's one place ahead.
he's 6, and I think what Lando's 7 and Oscar is 8, right?
Yeah, correct.
Right. So
So he's got two
like
McLarens on the grid behind him.
typically we love the 2v1, right? We're big fans of that. But are you on McLaren or are you on
I was on McLaren.
Alonso? Okay,
Now,
because I literally am like I'm gravitating toward Alonso.
I know you are. Would you feel differently if Lando, because Lando's there, according to him, because he made a mistake that was worth a tenth and a half. And he said a tenth and a half puts me on the second row or whatever it would have been. I don't know all the math.
Yeah.
So, like, I don't know. Do you feel way different about that if Lando doesn't make an error under pressure under one lap and actually puts it where the car deserves to be? Because Alonso hooked up the best lap he could. And he even said that on the comms. He's like, that was a tidy lap.
Yeah, it was. And he was out there by himself. And he
went out there by himself.
Yeah. And now, so, man, it's so hard because, the McLaren has I think it has more potential than the Aston Martin. The McLaren was, if it wasn't for Max last year, the McLaren would have been a race winner, and it was in a sprint. But what we know, and we've seen it with some of the times that have come through in practice and come through in the testing, that this mix of corners, it doesn't suit the McLaren. Like they're just,
and they say
something inherently, and they exactly, like everybody will be the first to admit it within that organization. Like it just doesn't suit this style of track. And I think that how rough it is on the tires puts Piastri in a really tough spot. Like we know,
I agree.
He admitted that a lot last year, that his biggest deficiency as a driver, and he's a superstar. Like, don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
But his biggest deficiency is in managing the tires. He didn't just figure it out. I don't think, at the very least, right? So we know that Alonso's going to manage, even if Piastri has the race pace advantage on him, which I think it is, and I think it's relatively minor, but it does exist. Piastri is not the threat; it's Lando. So really, maybe you say it's a 1v1, Lando versus Alonso.
They didn't have any matchups between different.
But that's okay. I'm just saying, like theoretically, if you look at that bet, it's kind of like a 1v1. It's Alonso versus Lando. Alonso with track position. Alonso on a track that we know last year he was mega on it. He looked fantastic. He looked like a threat.
The car was different though. He was in the second fastest car at that time.
He was.
He's not
and the field is different now, right? But
he might be
I'm
in
just
the
saying,
fifth fastest car.
He could be in the. I think he is. I think he is in the fifth fastest car. All right. I think that the odds that you're getting there are an acknowledgement of that. But is he just, because this is a track that doesn't suit the McLaren, and Lando's great at managing, like he's a good race manager too, but he's not Fernando Alonso, right? On one of the more abrasive tracks on the calendar.
That's the strongest point you've made. McLaren is openly admitting Bahrain's not a track that suits us.
We know that. Like it's just they got tons and tons and tons of data on it, right? So I don't know, man. Like that's just, I would be, not that I'm not saying that we need to take Aston Martin on that bet. I'm just I don't think I could bet on McLaren and just see our two cars lose to Fernando Alonso and you go, fuck me, like.
Yeah. I mean, this is the hardest week we're going to have all year. We have no data. We have no pecking order. So we're flipping coins on a lot of these. I tried to say what has some meat behind it.
Yeah.
I mean, those were the 3 team matchups I liked.
Okay. Well, take me somewhere else. Take me to.
What do you think about Checo? Let's talk about Checo.
Yeah, I mean, I think
that
he's.
Fifth.
Yeah, like there's such a high probability that he's competing for a podium spot. Obviously, like I don't know if that means that he's 1 and 2 with Max. Like we know that there's going to be a ton of pace in this car, and we know that. Okay, I don't want to deviate because you brought up Checo, so this is your fault that I'm going off on this tangent.
Okay, oh, sorry.
Because
sorry,
I took, but okay, this is going to be a wild take, but I watched the race in 30 from 2023 just earlier today.
Okay,
and this is so weird, man. One thing that stood out to me, so that Max and Checo qualified 1-2, they locked at the front row, and Bahrain is weird. Like you go, it's just like, what is it? 2 soft stints and a hard, or I can't remember what it is. 2 softs and a hard. It's hard and soft. They don't run the medium. The medium's not.
No, they don't run the medium.
It's a 2-stopper with the hards and the softs. And if you're starting at the front of the grid, you're going to be on the softs. If you're starting at the back of the grid, you're going to be on the hards, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
But what I found odd was last year, and I went through this and I verified it like 10 times, Checo starting in second was the latest pit stop on the softs. I think he did like 17 or 18 laps. And he made that change before. There was like 4 cars at the back of the grid. Lando was one of them. They were on the hards. And Checo ran the longest in the first stint.
Well, Lando had made 11 pit stops by then.
He made 11 pit stops by then. I know. Maybe not be as relevant, but we can look. Who's at the back? It's the 2 Saubers.
So are you taking me to your favorite bet last pit stop?
Just look at it. I don't know what it is. Just look to see. Because like I'm sure Max will be like plus 350 or something stupid, right? Which is fair. Like maybe he is the last pit stop. But so I guess my point is, what we understand about the Red Bull is that they've added downforce, and there was already a tremendous car in managing the tires. This is a rear limited circuit, which we know Checo, and it has got some big braking zones. So we know it does suit Checo. It's not a street track, but it does suit Checo's driving style as well.
Yeah.
And last year on the softs, he was the last pit stop. So like I don't know if it's
I just know
value.
Lewis is coming in on hards.
You think Lewis is coming in on hards from 9th? But
yeah.
Man, I guess my point is I don't know if that even matters. That's the craziest thing about this bet.
I mean, the Red Bull said they had 0 deg in testing.
Yeah, 0 deg.
Brand new tires, still shiny after 10 laps.
They're still shining. So like that's just the craziest part. I when I was watching the race back and I was thinking, the thought popped into my head even before the race started. I'm like, oh, look at it. Everybody's on softs at the front. I wonder who the last stop is. It must be one of these guys down at the end on the hards, obviously. And then it just wasn't. It was Checo.
I don't think they have last pit stop, dude.
Oh. No.
What's lap number?
It's under something weird.
Safety car, winning margin, enhanced win.
Yeah, no, it's going to be, hold on.
Last finisher, end of first lap.
Leader after lap.
It's usually around here, race handicap.
Winning margin.
To lead a lap, safety car. Go back up to the top. This was all normal stuff up at the top.
Okay, hold on.
I think they've gotten rid of it.
Fastest lap, group betting. No, those bastards. Are you kidding me? Do a forecast combination.
Like a team.
I thought it was stop. No, it wasn't. It wasn't. It's like something. It's not called last pit stop though, because it's.
Yeah, it is. I think.
Driver specials. That's what it is. Driver specials. It was there. Go back down. It was there. Back down. Driver specials.
The page reloaded on me. I didn't do that on purpose. Driver specials.
You did it on purpose. Here we go. They tried to hide it.
Oh, they did try to hide it. Okay, well, let's see it all together, people.
Yeah. What do we got?
Where's our guy?
Where's our guy, Checo?
Sergio Perez.
I don't think we've ever won a
plus
Sergio
450. Bet. We've never won.
Interesting. I don't think we've never won a Sergio bet. What's Max?
If we're gonna take a bet on Sergio, we should also just take retire first lap.
That actually,
based on our history,
that's the right bet to take. 100%.
Yeah,
that's so true,
dude. I'm not going last pit stop first race of the year. The grid is too mixed up.
You can't. So you can't even mark it down as a maybe.
Fine.
Like it's not that big of a flyer compared to the Alpines coming out of the race. I have precedent. I'm literally giving you. It happened last year.
Yeah.
It just happened. And we know that the RB19 is even, you just said it yourself. You know that they're just literally, they were on another planet last year with tire management.
I know.
They might be in a different fucking universe right now with tire management. So, I don't know, man.
They're going to be using Checo to block off any undercuts or overcuts. He's not going to have the ability to choose his pit stop. I'll say that.
That's what I know, but that means he's probably going to run long. Then I
know
they're going to maintain track position and lead. They'll keep him out there and maintain track position, especially if he can climb quickly.
Okay, I wrote it down for you.
Move on to something else. No,
but I'm going to move on to something related because it's kind of along the same lines of thought. Number of race leaders.
Okay,
and that to me, I like a lot better. 3 or more.
Do you?
Plus 137.
Okay, take me through that.
Max off the line counts.
Okay.
Checo, like you're saying, last pit stop counts.
Okay.
And I think the grid is so mixed up. And to the points that we were making on our future show, the field has converged amongst itself. So we no longer have 2 Red Bulls running away with it, then one Ferrari because one DNF'd, one Ferrari in their little Sunday drive. This is going to be Max runs away with it, probably. I mean, there's another lean that maybe he doesn't do it right away. but he runs
Yeah.
away. We're going to be seeing cars pass each other for that P2 position. Max has to pit at some point. So someone's going to inherit the lead. Max will not be pitting with a 30-second gap.
It's a two-stopper, though, right? Like, is it not? It has to be a
I think
two-stopper.
so.
I think it's traditionally been one, unless Red Bull does something fucking crazy, which
Who
is
knows? Well, Red Bull's
theoretically possible.
Actually,
They're
no,
not irrelevant.
who would be
They're
relevant for this?
They're very relevant.
Yeah.
They're very relevant for this bet. Okay, I'm not opposed to that because that kind of does factor in this whole Checo at some point in fifth place is like he's being dangled out there going long, right?
Or Lewis goes long.
Or Lewis goes long too. I mean, I guess we kind of
Lewis loves going on the alternate strategy from ninth.
Yeah.
And he's all set up for the race. He's set up to manage tires.
Yeah. I mean, the problem theoretically with this bet is that Max just has like such a massive advantage. Okay, hold on. Who's on the dirty side of the track?
Charles.
Charles is. Yeah, so that doesn't help on lap one.
I looked at Ferrari to lead lap one. Just in the sense of we've seen it. Remember Monza last year? Max let them go for 14 laps. He didn't care. He's like, I'll get you. I'll wait for DRS. I'll wait for my tires to come to me.
No, I'm just saying, like, is this the type of track that you can get him going into turn one on just because of how dusty it gets, right? Like,
we've seen enough starts that there is a battle into turn one. It's
true.
It is dusty. Like to your point, it is a dirty track, dirtier than most. But we've seen battles off the line.
Yeah, and if you go to cover a guy off, like maybe that kind of puts you in a position that's difficult as a leader.
And we've got Georgie Boy there. Like he's gonna be trying for the lead because that's his only chance at it.
100% gonna try to get the lead.
Uh-huh.
Okay, I'm interested. I like these bets because again, they're just sort of the ancillary bets. So I'm interested in 3.
And what I like about the 3+ on week 1 is we don't know. Nobody knows after Max who's the best. So I think they swap spots a lot.
Yeah, I okay. I mean, like unless the only downside to this is that we truthfully don't know what the max, like the potential race paces of the Red Bull, and that I don't know, man. Maybe like
we can combine ancillary bets, not a direct hedge, but a half hedge, and we take 3+ leaders and then combine it with winning margin over 10 seconds. Because your biggest concern with not getting that third leader is Max is way out in front and just pits and keeps the lead.
Right.
I think, right?
Yeah.
So
okay.
They could both win.
Yeah. Okay. I'm trying to we're thinking about how this is going to play out. So you get, I mean, they both can happen. Obviously, they're slightly hedging each other, to your point.
Slightly. That's the kind of hedge I like.
Okay. Man, there's got to be, okay. So I'm still, it sucks. This is why it's so hard, but this goes back to my point in the beginning. But I still don't feel like we have something that we really like. Okay, can you take
full cards on the table? There is nothing that I love this week.
I know that.
Right?
But we're going to find
Max to win. Let's put $1,000 on him at -700.
Okay. Can you take me somewhere else? Take me to.
Do you think Checo gets the podium? Like we were started this on Checo, and that was one thing that I was going to lead us to. Like, does he get the podium?
Probably, right? Like I don't know why. But do we want? I guess really do we want to bet on Checo? Like he just wimped out for us in qualifying on my hot pick. But
okay, so this has changed since I looked at it.
What?
Straight TriCast. When I first came in here, it was equal odds. They were both 700 for. Yeah. They were both Max, then Charles, and then they were giving a toss-up between George and Checo.
Interesting.
It's changed already. Checo's into P2 here.
I mean, like the first, like Max, Checo, Leclerc is.
Now this is in order. We'd probably be better to look at the combo.
Yeah, what is the combo? Like, there's no way that's not what happens in the end.
Oh, I might have misspoke earlier. I think this was the one I was referencing.
Oh, you were looking at this.
Equal odds. So the combination of them. So they have it as Max and Charles stay there, and then it's a toss-up in Vegas's eyes between George and Checo.
Man. Okay. I mean, I like the plus 350 with Max and Checo and Leclerc on the podium. Like again, these are all like semi-flyers that we're talking about here at this
They
point,
are. Yeah.
right? Like, I still need to figure out what direction we're going on for, kind of the bulk of what we've got to bet. Okay.
I'd feel comfortable going Haas over or V carb over Haas for the bulk. That's that minus 250 that we talked about.
I know. Okay. Okay, let's keep looking. So plus 350, that's also interesting too.
That's the combo, yeah. So I
that's a
actually didn't
combo.
write the combo down. I was only referencing that for where they see the podiums most likely.
Mm-hmm.
Combo plus 350. We'll make a quick note.
I think it makes a lot of sense. Checo to finish. What's like top two? What's Checo?
Or I was going podium earlier.
Okay, well, what's that?
Even 100.
Even
it was
is-
110
okay.
when it came out, so it's
And
dropped a little.
That's interesting too. I mean, if it was anybody other than him, I would be just like dead money. Dead even would be great from where he's coming from.
Well, out of fifth, should be way longer than that.
It should be way longer than that, right? Like for him, again, this is a track that he drives well. Like, right? There's no.
What about without Verstappen?
Plus
Now this is a P2 bet, so not just the podium. That's where all the extra value comes from.
I actually don't like that. I'd rather the
no,
podium.
because I think Charles can stay there easily.
I do think he could too. Yeah, I think he just is so much better than him that even the advantage that Checo does have probably on ultimate race pace and even with Deg, I mean, I would rather take him to finish on the podium to get that third spot.
Is this all just because you just want our Checo bet to be last pit stop?
No, I swear it's not. But I think that helps. Like, I think the fact that he's going to be able to go long is going to be an advantage in getting him on the podium. So I just hate, I just like, man, it's so hard to always just end up picking this guy because of how bad he qualifies. But
it's also like a front wing in turn one that might not ruin his race would ruin the last pit stop.
No, it's fine. I can get over the last pit stop. Like,
I'd rather go 3 more liters. If we're talking about Checo going long, I think the better.
Yeah, no, that's fair.
We lose value, but it's more likely. There's so much more that can happen.
And other things can happen. Like it doesn't have to hinge on him, which I get. Like that's and that's you need to cover your bases. Okay, show me some. Whoa, what's to finish?
What else
third?
do I have here?
Yo, hold on. We got to finish second.
Top two.
And
whoa, these are new.
A couple of new guys, a couple of new odds here.
So exactly pin it.
Yeah.
Let's go second first.
Okay. Plus 275 to finish. But why don't we go
210?
No, I could never do this. To finish third, to finish second, like it's just.
I'd
too
rather
much
just
I'd rather take the podium, like the even money on the podium.
Checo third at 333 to finish third.
Yeah, that's interesting.
That's interesting.
That is interesting.
He's got to get Carlos and he's got to get George.
Yeah.
I would be pissed if we took him to finish third and then he comes in second.
Well, that's not that. I would rather take him to finish in second than finish in third, to be honest. Like
Really?
if we're gonna make the bet, that's plus 333, and him finishing in second
260
is I'd rather take the plus 260 because that's like, well, top two finish doesn't make sense because he's not beating Max, so it actually should just be to finish in second. What's to finish in second?
Oh yeah,
you're losing value
to finish second.
Like it doesn't make sense. Like
275.
Yeah, plus 275. So you might as well do that if we were gonna do one. Like he just finishes in second.
I'll jot it.
Yeah.
Right. I did also jot that combo, and that was plus 350, and that's all 3 of them.
Yeah.
So what could happen here where Checo? Yeah. So Checo finishes 2 and George beats Charles for the podium.
No.
So then are we just better to take the combo? And who cares if who's 2 and 3?
Yeah. Right.
The combo was plus 350.
I guess you're right. You're probably right. Like we don't want to throw away. I mean, it's just you're adding
why
more
would we
variables
try to
in.
Pin? Yeah.
You're adding more variables in at that point, but
yeah, this one here, Max, Charles, and Checo, 350. So like, okay, saying Checo's in P2, so he's got to get by Charles. So then the only way that wins and this doesn't is someone else past Charles.
like, what do we think about? What do we think? We haven't talked about Carlos at all. Like, what do we think about?
I just don't know what to think about the Ferrari. The whole thing with
Well,
the Ferrari was their
yeah.
tires sucked, and they're saying our tires are better, but I don't know. I'd
Well, they
like
are
to
though.
see it.
No, no, no. Okay, so like again, this is kind of the point that I mentioned before when we were talking about the Haas. Like they I think it was literally they were 50% better in terms of performance from again like
Okay,
a data
yeah,
point from last year. Like that's a significant. My point earlier was how does that stack up relative to the field? Like I don't think that there's a ton of. I think there's more convergence on that probably, right? Like I don't think anybody's maybe other than the Red Bull who looks like they've again upped the game. They're playing chess now versus checkers because they've
yeah.
changed the design philosophy. Outside of Red Bull, which we're not going to worry about, like I don't think that the Mercedes, like I don't know, do we know a lot about the Mercedes concept in terms of the tire deck? Like I mean, again,
No,
we know that it theoretically the mechanical setup is similar to the RB19, so that should help the tires. It could help it. It could help the tires even more than the changes that Ferrari has made, right? I don't
yeah.
know. That's the hardest part. There was a point I remember writing something down. Okay, this is the point that I was trying to remember. Because of how difficult and hard Bahrain is on the rear tires, just because of the corner mix and the high braking zones, that there's a tendency to set the cars up with understeer, right? And we we've talked about this in the past. There's a handful of drivers like Alonso and Sainz on the grid that are not. They don't want the pointy front end, right? Like they would rather have understeer dialed into the car, and it's kind of like a symptom of this track is that you need it. And Checo's one of them too, actually. I think that's why Checo, Alonso, Sainz. I think that's why I'm kind of gravitating more toward those guys. It's hard because like you got Max out there and he just takes the pointy front end and just drags the car around the track. Leclerc does the same thing. I think those two guys are just like on another level though, theoretically. Whereas the rest of the field, like these guys that we know are kind of better with understeer conditions, like that might make George susceptible, right? Like I don't, you know what I mean? Especially if we think that he set his car up maybe more for quality and wants to try to hang out with track position as an advantage that he takes into the race. I don't know. Like, do you see like is there anything on Carlos? Like, what about combination podium? Can we look at like look at combo podium,
get up to the podium
matchups? Well, I don't know if Carlos gets on the podium, but I'm like, is there a matchup that we like? Or, yeah, well, let's look at combination podium.
The first thing I thought was Carlos and George will not be on the podium together, and I think that was very minus money.
Well, I bet it was, yeah.
Carlos and George minus 700. Short. Yeah.
Yeah.
I also liked Carlos and Checo minus 800. I mean, do we say Charles and George don't go on the podium together?
Will Charles and George finish on the podium?
But at that point, is Carlos going to be? Is it going to be two Ferraris on the podium?
Well, see,
or we're just better to take the combo with Checo.
No, see, these are good bets though because these I kind of like these ones only because you get like we just talked through it. Like I think that Sainz is a threat.
Oh, yeah. Sorry, George. Continue.
Oh, Max and George. Yeah, actually, no, that's
this
was
a better our favorite bet last year.
Yeah, this was our fuck. This was.
And how does it have that? How does it have those odds?
I don't know. That's an interesting one though. I don't think people look at these. So that's a good one, right? Because you get the Max just in case something happens to Max.
Yeah.
And George, we don't. I mean, like I'm not convinced. I'm not convinced with the Mercedes is ready to fight with those four other cars, right? Like I don't think so. I would even argue. I think Alonso. Well, dude, I started this off by saying, does Lewis have a chance of getting George?
So between Checo, Carlos, Lewis, and maybe Fernando can all go get George. I don't like. I'm not betting on Lewis to make the podium.
No. I get that though, but he just is a factor, right?
Yeah.
In it overall.
We love that bet. I kind of really like Verstappen and George not on the podium together.
Yeah, we do love that bet. I mean, it's just a fade on George, but you get something if Max doesn't finish, which is good.
If George could, the Great Wall of George is right behind Max on the grid.
He is. He could go right into the back of him. He could.
I'm gonna jot this down. Actually, I'm gonna put a star on it because
fine. See, Kate, this is what I was hoping we would find. Is something that kind of just like jumps out to us, and we go, oh, okay, that might be what we want to put the bulk of our money on at minus 138.
It would sting so much more if it's George that does it to us. Like he gets the podium.
It would sting.
Yeah.
But okay. So I don't know. I think Carlos. I actually legitimately think that Carlos is, for how much we consider Checo. I actually think that Carlos is just as much of a threat because of the nature of the track. You know what I mean?
Okay.
I talk. Listen, I'm
Yeah.
dialing in the understeer. I think that gives him a bit of an advantage because he's well, okay. My comparison is this: we saw this last year when before Ferrari brought the upgraded floor to. This is coming back after the break, right? Like this is like starting in Zandvoort, and then they haven't made the floor change yet, and there's just more understeer in the car. Carlos was qualifying and finishing better than Leclerc, who's a way better driver than him. Right? They're in the same car, right?
Debatably, yeah.
He's a way better driver. He's a way better driver. But I guess my point is like, you can say what you want about Carlos and George, but I think that Carlos is obviously more comfortable with the understeer setup, probably with rear limited tracks to that degree, and that's kind of what we have here. So I like this bet because I think he's a threat too. We know Checo is just because he's in a Red Bull.
Right. Yeah.
Okay.
This is getting we're gaining value, I think, because the general sentiment is the Merc is amazing in race pace. So look out. Like George is equal money with Checo to be in that combo on the podium.
Yeah. And I don't know. Yeah. I just don't know. Like, are they amazing in race pace? Like,
I'd love to see it. I hope they are. I hope it's competitive.
Maybe. I would be great. But there's also the track record of Ferrari kind of performing well at Bahrain, even with
they do. If their engines don't blow up.
If their engines don't blow up, and you have to hope that at this point,
I
3 years in that they've dealt with a lot of those reliability issues, and I do feel more comfortable betting theoretically on Ferrari. Like,
I agree. If there's no drain covers, Ferrari proved throughout last year that we can trust the reliability a little more.
There are drain covers. That is part of the problem. But
no, they've been cemented. We're good this week.
Everything's fine. You're right. They've been cemented down. We should be fine.
Okay, I'm gonna jot that down. I mean, that's a minus 138.
Yeah,
I still had.
Take me somewhere else here. Take me somewhere
else. I had 3 or more liters was a good minus. Or no, it's plus. Never mind.
That's plus money. That's plus 137, I think.
I'm there was only one other thing that I jotted down, and it's very ancillary, and it's almost a flyer.
Okay. What do you have?
And it goes against everything that we just said.
What? What is it? Everything.
Mercedes fastest lap.
No, I don't know. No.
Everyone's talking about their race pace.
Yeah. I don't know.
They did it 4 times last year.
Buddy, you don't like I've got a bunch of those weird ancillary bets that I always go to. Last pit stop is a big one. I just hate the fastest lap. I hate it. Unless you're going to pick Max to do it, I don't. Then I'm like, oh, I'm interested. Okay, yeah, maybe Max.
All right, we'll put a cross through that one.
Yeah, cross that one. Okay, go back to the board and let me see.
Just to look through options here.
Yeah, I just want to see the props. Actually,
good catch on the new 2 finish second.
That's interesting. Eh?
That is very interesting.
Let's look at group betting. I just want to take a look here. Yeah.
Admittedly, haven't looked at these groups yet.
Okay, that's fine. Let's take a peek here.
Yeah.
Look at that first group. It's fucking wild. Look at that.
Wow. I like
Carlos Sainz.
Max
Carlos
Verstappen
Sainz
in this first group.
Buddy, I like Carlos Sainz in group 2.
Ooh, I don't mind Carlos Sainz in group 2 either.
I just talked about it. And actually I kind of like the synergy between theoretically that Georgia bet too.
How so? Explain that to me. I think I agree, but explain it to me.
If he's going to bump, if he's one of the guys like him and Checo are guys that are competing for that 3rd spot on the podium, right? Then theoretically he's finishing ahead of these drivers too. He's finishing ahead of Lewis. He's finishing ahead of Alonso. He's finishing ahead of Norris. Right. So it follows that narrative. You know what I mean?
I don't mind it. Group 2.
Group 2, Carlos Sainz at plus 137.
Plus 137.
Right? Like we just know that their car has better race pace and he's starting ahead of everybody. It doesn't make any sense that he's plus money.
No, it makes
Why would he be plus money? He should be minus 150.
Because everyone thinks the Merc has great race pace.
I know, but it's
Lewis is for the record, I like Mercedes. I hope they have great race pace, but I think the value we're going to find this week might be in fading that expectation.
I agree.
That might be the biggest value here.
And there will be a point in the near future where we make the change, where we say, okay, now it's time.
Mm-hmm.
Like as soon as a trend looks like it's been set, where they just don't have the race pace that maybe people are expecting relative to the top 2 teams, to Red Bull and Ferrari, we're going to find it at that point. But for now, I'm not entirely convinced, right? Like, I think I need to see it. And what if Lewis Hamilton puts it on the podium, then it is what it is. I mean,
let's put it this simple, dude. We got the guy starting the highest in the group.
The group
plus money.
The guy highest in the group. Like, is something going to happen to him? I don't know. Anything can happen to any of these guys.
He led Q2.
Yeah, he like Q2. Like he can.
Like
Well, we know
the
again
car,
Ferrari.
yeah, the car,
Yeah.
the car, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay,
I
I
think
like
the
it.
race. I think the race pace. I think the race pace of the Ferrari is fine. Like it's never actually the race pace of the Ferrari has never been a problem. It's just been this Deg thing.
The
And
deck.
I don't know what to say. Like the Deg, like if they struggle with Deg in the race, I think just like Fred Vasseur will probably go. I don't know what the fuck to say. I get to say the same thing because
Right.
if you look at the data points from last year's testing to this year's testing, a 50% improvement in your ability to extract laps out of the tires would suggest that you doesn't mean it's like gone as a problem, but this is the hardest track or one of the hardest tracks on tires. That's a noticeable, tangible improvement that's going to improve your performance in the race. Like Carlos was almost on the podium last year. Leclerc probably would have been if his engine didn't blow up. This is a better version of the car, right? And we talked about Mercedes. We think that they're heading in the right direction with concept, but it's going to take time to extract the performance out of it.
We don't need to put all our money on Mercedes.
No, we already did that for the futures bets.
Ground floor
Yeah,
of their
we
new
already did that.
concept. I know.
Exactly, right? We don't need to do that in race one. So I think I don't know. That 137 on Carlos is like that's a nice bet. I think
It's a very nice bet. This combo here. Do you want me to do a? Well, actually, you know what? Group 3. Do we like anything in here?
no. I was looking.
I think
at
it's
the other
Oscar
ones.
and it's minus money. I mean, it's not that minus, but
No, the only reason I wouldn't take him is because we kind of talked about there's maybe a chance that he does struggle. Like even though the McLaren's race pace is, I'm sure it's going to be enough to be a top 10 car without a doubt. And we thought it could threaten Alonso, who's starting at 6th. He's 6th, right? Yeah.
Alonso 6th.
Yeah,
We're
he's
gonna
6th.
make all our money on McLaren when we go back to Spa and we
100%.
go to Suzuka.
Spa, yeah, fucking Spa.
Yeah.
And hopefully they set their car up the right way this year.
Hopefully
Good
it rains.
God.
Maybe
Yeah.
it rains.
Hopefully it rains. Hopefully it rains. They bring the
Also,
wing.
you know what? Lando, I almost forgot about this. Lando said he
What?
made a mistake, but the qualifying conditions were a lot cooler than they will be for the race. Zach Brown very openly, hey, the cooler conditions suit our car. So
They do.
This might like be an overperformance of McLaren because it was cooler
Yeah.
conditions in quality.
Man, it's weird to say, but I'm not gone. Like I'm not off. It's plus 100. I'm not off that Fernando Alonso matchup, like the Aston Martin matchup against those two cars.
I don't want it because
Okay,
I
you don't
came
want
in
it.
thinking the other way. I
No, it's
think
fine.
that's enough.
Yeah,
for
yeah.
me to just be like,
We that's okay. I think that's the right way to approach these types of bets. Okay, go back to the board though, because
Yeah,
I'm
let's go back to the
picking
board,
stuff
yeah.
out.
I know.
Like you wasted your time before this because you brought nothing essentially.
I brought a lot of stuff.
Yeah, but it was all trash. You brought
Well,
just trash. You brought
according to
trash,
you.
man.
This
You did.
has been you on this show. I don't know if I want to do that at the top. I don't know if I want to do that at the back. Oh, the midfield's so muddy. I don't know. That's you.
Yeah, and now I'm
And
finding
just
value.
like, all right, roll
Yeah,
with it. Now
yeah,
here's the next
yeah.
one. Here's another option.
You're being a good team player. I appreciate that. You're being a really good team player right now, which is awesome. Group betting we looked at, straight track
group
cast.
betting.
We don't have like a lean on. We're not.
We
doing
don't want-
safety cars. Straight track cast. No.
No.
Straight track cast. Forecast combo.
Leader.
We talked about
Grand slams too late.
winning margin. We talked about
Total
grid
classified
position.
drivers. Like, is there any
Nah,
is there any
nah, I don't-
reason to say it's just race one and some stuff can go bad? No, nothing went bad in texting. Everyone, this is the most. It's 23 or what is it? 20 reliable cars.
Yeah.
The
Well, I
cars don't
wouldn't
break
like.
down anymore.
I know. I wouldn't do that. Like the only we talked about Alpine. You know, they're pretty well in another week of testing here. So
Yeah,
like, they could come out. One of them comes out. I just can't see. There's no value. It didn't look like there. Like unless you're going to pick all the cars to stay on the track, which I mean that would be wild if that happened, but it could.
what is
What's
that
this
line
one
though?
total? 19
Over
plus
19
600.
plus 600. No DNFs.
One car to come out at like plus 200. One car.
But then you need to. Oh no! Wait, yeah, you can win
Yeah.
with none or one.
Yeah. How wild would that be if you just made that bet?
Here's
The
what I'll
cars,
say about
buddy,
Alpine.
the cars are
If
cars are very
Alpine's,
reliable.
like, if they're getting lapped, they're still going to say, Pierre, this is good learning. Like, stay
Yeah.
out there.
Yeah.
They're not going to pull him in and say, save the engine.
I mean, like there's no walls or anything. There's a lot of there's a shit ton of runoff everywhere on this track. It's like a massive amount of runoff.
Yeah,
Yo, that's actually not a.
that's actually not
It's
that
not-
bad.
It's not a crazy bet. And okay, so here's okay.
There was no issues through all of testing. That's
I know.
They didn't even have a
I
yellow
agree.
flag in testing.
I know, and the craziest thing is, like this might be the whole you get ahead of the curve type of thing. Like the odds haven't normalized. They're probably just carrying over from last year. But this is another,
Right.
like you mentioned, another winter of improving performance mechanically. Right?
Stabilization under the regulation.
Yep.
Like nothing
So-
changed on them.
It's just reliability that's been improved. Ooh, plus 200 is like I feel like it's kind of good
don't-
value.
And you get one.
Yeah.
You get one to sneak out.
You get one, like that's fine.
Like, do we
Okay.
go super safe and take 2? 150 is not that bad.
150 is not that bad. Okay, yeah, mark that down.
Like two cars can come out. You still win this.
Yeah.
When was the last time we saw like a pile up?
It's just
Baku
it
2020, where it decided tires blew up and everyone
no,
DNF.
but it could happen at any point though. Like I mean, that's the thing. I like the fact that it's. I think that the odds haven't been calibrated yet, so we're kind of getting value here. And I like the fact that there's runoff. I like the fact that there was no issues in testing. I mean, it doesn't like you guys are going to slam into each other. Like whatever, it is what it is. You can't do anything about that. There's a reason
so
why
many teams. Think about Williams, VCarb, Haas, Alpine, Mercedes. All these teams with new concepts, new philosophy. You lose a wing. Hey, run around in 20.
Yeah, but Aero, it doesn't matter because Aero doesn't matter. Like Aero is irrelevant, right? Like
no, but I'm saying
mechanical.
Like, in a normal mid-season race, they might say, "Okay, retire the car." No, they're gonna say just run around 3 laps down because we need the data.
Yeah, well, they're going to do what Lando. Look what they made Lando do last year. Like they're good. Teams are going to do that, right? Like if the car isn't in pieces, right? They're gonna. What were they doing? Like fucking putting.
Dude, they pit him like
popping off his
or something.
PU with like I don't even know what it was. It was insane.
He probably got a new wheel.
Yeah, they did that though. So okay, that's a really interesting one. I like that one.
I like how we find value kind of late in the show.
That's just we always.
That makes sense though. We have to explore, and then it's like, the cream comes to the top. Is that what it is? Yeah.
You got to talk about it.
So we're 17.5 plus class, minus 150.
What a crazy thing to bet on. It's crazy.
Is it? Is it that crazy?
No. It's a good thing to bet on. Actually, I like the fact that it's like, so this is, they always set the odds for total classified drivers. And this is 17.5 is just, that's the money number because that's probabilistically the number the number of, it's either 2 or 3 come out, right? Like that's usually what happens.
Mm-hmm.
So I like that we're on the hot number, we're on the low number, and the short numbers is a value that we're willing to take at minus 150.
I like it in combination with 3 or more leaders too.
I'm not.
If cars come out at the top, no, that Max can still be running away.
No, I'm still. So my board looks. It's 3 bets. It's the Sainz bet. It's the George comes out bet. Like George on the podium, and it's this. That's my now.
Not the combo TriCast at 350.
Not the combo TriCast at 350. Not the combo TriCast at 350. No, I don't want to. I would rather just like we already blew up our hot picks. We're down $75 going into the weekend. Like I'd rather just try to hit 3 that are like, I always say like I love living in that minus 200 to plus 200 range, and I love that we've kind of found those.
I'm just kind of looking through. Was there anything else that I missed? So you don't like the 3 leaders, okay? Carlos Group 2, Max and George not on the podium together. 17.5 class.
Yeah.
Do we want to revisit winning margin? I mean, it's a flip a coin. That's a shot in the dark. We don't have to.
I don't want to. Can you go back to the board though? Go back to the board.
Sorry.
Let me see. Yeah.
Okay.
Well, I'm staring.
Hey, do you have
You're just a guy. You're just a guy using. You're just the mouse guy.
Yeah, that's what I've been.
You are.
To.
You're the mouse guy. Well, buddy, let me. I'm in the zone right now.
Okay. Yeah, you kind of are actually. Let him cook.
Let him cook, folks. Let the man cook. Number of race leaders, driver specials, race handicap. No, we haven't. Okay, keep going down.
We just did total class. Okay.
Do lead lap.
The 3-way. Hold on. Let me just look at the 3-way.
Yeah, that's interesting.
No, because the whole thing was we wanted the flexibility.
Nah, it's too hot.
Okay, never mind. No. Is it easier for you to read if I do this list?
No, it doesn't matter. It's the same thing.
Classified 3-way.
What else?
Finishing position.
Finishing position. Take a peek.
Take a peek,
right?
Carlos Sainz. Carlos.
Our guy, yeah.
So, shortest odds are him to stay in 5th?
Yeah, I don't like that. I'm not a fan of that because we think
him to lose out to Checo. Is that's what that is?
Well, no. Yeah.
Checo passes him.
Yeah,
and
but we don't.
5th. I'm not saying we take it. I'm just trying to.
No. Yeah,
I like to read these to say, well, where are you guys thinking that it's going?
Right.
Charles. P2, most likely. I don't think there's anything there. George
6 or worse. Like
what's Lewis have? 6th or worse is most likely.
Yeah.
So they're saying
He
he
has tough on
can
breaking in.
get Alonso, but he's not going to get Checo.
Right. Which is
Probably the
true.
most likely.
Yeah.
Okay, Max first.
And then Checo.
Checo's favored for P2.
He's favored for okay. He's favored for P2, which is not, again, that makes sense. Like, obviously based on what we've seen.
Yeah.
Okay. I didn't see anything.
No.
Nothing there jumps out to me.
No,
So let's
don't
go
love anyone
back.
there.
It kind of, I mean,
You gotta look
we've
at
seen
it.
that. We've seen that reflected in pretty well every other prop that we've looked at. So it makes sense that there's no anything weird, right?
No. VSC, safety car, we can look
No.
at it, but I don't even. We talked about winning margin, enhanced win only. What's this? Just better odds on
just
Max?
better odds on Max. Doesn't matter, yeah.
No.
Which is still just the weirdest thing that they have.
Yeah, why like
I don't know. We've never understood that.
Combo we've been through, podium finish, that's the Max and George.
Yeah, leader after lap and win race, and leader after lap we haven't done yet.
Do you want to look at
again? Well, we can look at it. There's nothing. We're not going to see anything there that I think. Oh, end of first lap.
Position. Sorry, I clicked the wrong thing.
Yeah.
Let's stay here.
No, I'm not.
No, we're not doing any of this.
No, I can't do that. Leader after lap and win race. Go down.
And win race. I thought you wanted it without. I mean, Max is the only one here.
3. None of this makes sense. Remember, we used to exploit this all the time, and it just now.
We used to.
Now it just doesn't make sense.
If we didn't have other value and you wanted to take Max to win, I mean, this is half of his odds. Just he's doing it by lap 10.
Yeah.
But then Monza comes around and he waits 14 laps, and then they go Red Bulls engage and they get them both on the same lap. That was a picture.
I know.
What a picture.
That was 100% profit that weekend too. The boys we were on it.
Mozzarella.
Okay, let's go to the race team. Props.
You want to go down to the teams? There was nothing
else
here.
There's nothing else here to lead a lap. I'm not
flag,
trying to make
car,
that pick.
Lead a lap driver. No,
I'm not trying to make that pick.
Teams.
Both cars will be classified. First team pit stop. Most team points we haven't looked at.
I mean, it's Red Bull, right?
Yeah, right. Like
minus 350.
Plus 300 for Ferrari. Like, no, there's nothing. None of this makes any sense.
No, we've done the math. Checo starts in a position that he can stay there, and Max wins, and that's Red Bull points.
Right. So
do we feel the need? We want to be on a minus 350 this week?
No.
I
don't think so. I kind of like where we are with those 3 bets.
I kind of like it too, but this is the weeds. We got to go through, make sure everything.
Right. What else did we have here? Is there like a both car? We didn't really look at both cars in finishing positions. So do you want to just go through both cars podium, both cars points, both cars top 6? Maybe something jumps out.
Did they give me teams with finishing positions? No. Damn.
No.
We can get it all on the same chart.
You're asking for a little bit too much, buddy.
I am asking for a little. Do you want to look at podium?
Yeah, let's look. Yeah, what's that?
125.
I didn't think it would. I mean, it doesn't. I'd rather fade George, right? Like, I'd rather fade George because if Checo's getting there, then George isn't on the podium because it's not going to be Max, Checo, George.
Well, that's the difference here because we had the combo of Max, Charles, and Checo at 350.
Well, we know
so
that's what I mean.
The difference here is it could be George as a third guy. I don't think that's likely. Like, if we were going to take this, I think we just go with the combo and say Charles is the guy that's there with them.
Right. Yeah, no, I agree. Okay. No, that's true. Okay. No, this doesn't make any sense.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, it doesn't make sense.
Both cars points. I mean, yeah, let's take a look. Who's out of the points? Usually the value comes from out of the points.
Well, it's Lance. I think.
Aston's, yeah.
Right. I wasn't convinced. Yeah, I wasn't.
No, and I'd rather just take Stroll alone because then let Alonso crash and Stroll gets the point or gets the place.
Gets a position. Okay. Yeah.
And the odds aren't that different.
That doesn't work for me either.
Top 6. I mean, this is kind of interesting. I
don't mind minus 275 for both Ferraris to be in the top 6. Like, that's not a bad.
I need to actively combat that this is not the old Ferrari where their engines are going to blow up.
No, I don't.
That's a.
It's hard to overcome that because, buddy, it could easily happen, right? I mean, minus 275 is really short, but it's really short. Should it not be theoretically shorter? Like, think about that. Should it not be shorter?
So they start in the top 6.
Well, they start 2 and 4.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I know.
Should it not be shorter?
So why is it not? Because they think Lewis gets him? Lewis gets into the top 6?
No, but
Carlos doesn't?
Well, he's minus 150 to finish 6th or worse, right? So he's
right.
not.
Well, 6th. Yeah, 6th though.
Oh, sorry, you're right. Yeah, no. I guess that's it.
So they're saying like Lewis sneaks into that 6.
Yeah, they think
and
Lewis
Carlos drops out, and Alonso stays there as well. So Alonso and or the McLarens. We have a minus 138, a minus 150, plus 137.
I don't really want to make a 2-car bet. Like I don't know if it's worth.
I don't think it's wise. No,
on 2 cars. No, I'd rather everything else is just like so. One is you get 2 drivers that could come out. You could have theoretically like Max and George come out of the race, and we could still win that over under on the amount of cars that finish.
I don't know if you noticed, but I didn't pitch any 2-car bets.
Well, I'm not opposed to them. Like it's not a street track.
But for the
my
reason of
rule.
race 1.
No, that's true too. I agree with that. No, it's not worth it. I don't think at minus 275 that it's worth doing.
I'd rather just throw on the 3 we have,
I think I agree.
And we've got to bet on Carlos to win his group, which kind of is saying he's in the 6 anyways, and it's way better odds.
And it's way better odds.
Actually, that's exactly what it's saying. He's grouped with all those drivers behind him.
No, that means he has to be in front of them. Well, no, so he could be behind them, but still win the 2-car bet though.
Okay, so if all 4 of those guys drop down the grid, he still wins. Yeah. But it's effectively saying
it doesn't matter.
I still top 6 position.
Yeah, I'm still. I don't. It should. I think it should be shorter, but it's still too short. I think for me to really want to take both cars, right?
Yeah. And I don't like the Merc to get in there, and no one else is going to do it.
No, that one I don't trust.
No. Okay. To be classified? I mean, do you want to look at anyone other than Alpine? We came in here earlier.
No, I haven't. No, I don't see anything.
Okay. No, I mean Alpine was the
stands
one.
up to me. Yeah,
but I think I've talked myself off of it because if anything's slightly wrong, they're going to say just run it for data.
100%.
Stay out there.
I think so.
Constructor retirement. Fastest pit stop, McLaren.
What's it gonna? It's gonna be cool, right? Like it's not. It's been cold.
No, it's gonna warm up a bit.
Bahrain. But how hot are we getting? Like not crazy.
Less wind, and I don't know, a few degrees Celsius.
A little bit warmer. Yeah, but I guess my point is like this isn't. We're early in the season. We're not going to be worried about cooling and that affecting power unit performance and potentially overheating.
I don't think so.
Right? Like I don't think so.
I mean, we do have the Red Bulls running a whole new cooling system.
Yeah, we're not. I guess my point is we're not in Europe in the summertime, right? Where it's like
correct
50 degrees Celsius track temps. Like we're not dealing with something like that, which would
we're
be
not running
I think
in the afternoon in Bahrain.
Exactly,
like they used to.
Yeah, exactly. Okay.
We went through the team match bets pretty extensively.
Yeah, I didn't see anything that I really liked there. So
I'm lap you hate.
Yeah, I hate it so much.
After lap number, team classified drivers. I think we've been through it all.
I think it's my least favorite prop. I honestly do. I think it's my least favorite prop that exists. I just hate it, man.
What? Fastest lap?
Yeah, I hate it.
Okay, fine. All right.
I hate it. I hate it.
Calm down, man.
Yeah, you just make us waste our money on it all the time.
Fastest pit stop. DHL fastest pit stop. Red Bull plus 110. Fastest pit stop?
Yeah, I mean, probably. They're going to probably be sub 2.
Or McLaren likes to get it.
Yeah, McLaren just ran,
who knows? I think I like the 3. Do we rock with the 3?
Yeah. Yeah, I think we rock with the 3. And now we just got to talk about, and they're like kind of tight in terms of the spread, right?
They are.
Let's
yeah,
talk
there's
about,
no like, hey, minus 350 is getting our block right off the start.
No. Like, so I don't know. What do we think? Like from
George.
So I like the value that you get with Max and George because it's obviously like something could happen to Max and you win the bet.
Mm-hmm.
Not that anything is going to happen to Max; he's just going to win. But
nothing's going to happen to Max. Something's going to happen to George, though.
Something could happen to George. Something could easily happen to George. George, he's just the right guy to fade. Like he's never going to change.
Right.
He's never going to change his driving style. Like one of the reasons that he's an excellent driver. He just is. Is he the most aggressive driver? Well, I mean, Max is probably. No, I think new Max is not as aggressive as current George.
A little bit. Yeah,
I agree. Like new Max is not as aggressive as current George. Current George is a psycho.
And let's talk about mentalities. Let's talk about the top 3. Max, I don't care what you guys do off the start. I'm winning this race. Who cares? Like,
yeah,
whatever. Do what you want to do.
100%.
Charles, I don't care what Max does off. I want P2. Like that's
Yeah.
what he was saying. This is a race for P2. George, got to get it all right now. Got to do
100%.
it. Lewis is coming behind me. He's got a better setup for the race. I got to do it all right now.
Yep. It does. It just plays into that. Like
Plays
it,
it-
this is it plays into our hands and it plays away from George. It
Do you
just
remember
makes it's gonna make him do something idiotic.
Do you remember the last time that George had an everything right now, all right now moment?
Yeah, it was
Late
Singapore.
in Singapore.
Late in Singapore. It was Singapore.
Running
and
out
he
of
just
time. Got to do it now.
drove- and he drove into a fucking wall. Right? So
Yeah.
I got my fingers crossed.
17.5 plus classified. Is that another 137?
That's 137, I think. Yeah.
150. It was 150, I think.
Oh, it was 150. It was 150. Yeah, you're right.
Okay. So we've got Max and George combination podium, no, minus 138.
Yeah.
Carlos in group 2, and I'm actually, for the sake of this part of the show, I'm going to keep the groups open.
No, why don't you just put them on the board? Like make the
I
bet
can't
now.
because I'm not signed in.
Well, just sign in. What do you mean?
I
Oh, yeah,
can't.
you want to sign in? Not. We don't do that. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, so Carlos to be ahead of Lewis, Fernando, and Lando, plus
Right.
137.
Yep.
And then 17 or more classifications.
Well, it's 17 and a half or more. So it has to be.
Sorry, 17. Yes, sorry. 18
Yes, we have-
or more. Yes.
Yeah, we have no cars coming out,
17.5.
one car coming out, or two cars coming out
Correct.
Okay.
At minus
Yeah.
150.
at minus 150. Okay. I mean, right away, I have no favorite.
I think I do have a favorite.
Is it the George?
No, I think
The
it's
cars.
the Carlos in his group.
Whoa! The longest odds. No, I'm not gonna do. We don't need to do
The
that.
reason I think, and again, like I don't know, we don't know people, but
Yeah.
the Mercedes is so good at race pace and the race pace and the race pace. I don't know. I feel maybe a little bit better that Carlos doesn't get passed by people already behind him
I do.
than I do that George also doesn't get passed by people behind him.
Okay, I see where you're coming from. I mean,
If there's no move, yeah, maybe that's it. Maybe that's a better way to. If there's no movement in this grid,
Yeah.
Carlos wins and George loses, or like our
Right.
combo George because he's
Yeah.
on the podium.
Right. Why don't we just go 333, buddy? Like, just you can sprinkle a
Straight
334
down the middle.
Just sprinkle a 334 on Carlos because you like that extra $1. Is that a crazy thing to do? I don't know.
Never
We-
done that before.
I don't have like I don't have a favorite out of them. Like okay, I guess my favorite I slightly
Well, you
favored
said
George coming out.
I said I had one.
Yeah, I said. So what did the odds say? Sorry, who's
That's
the shortest?
minus 138.
So minus
The
150,
shortest is the
the cars.
classification.
Yeah, it's the cars classifications. I'm good to split it 3 ways. I have no
I think
problem
we
with
do
that.
it,
I'd be
yeah.
okay- I would be okay with that.
Yeah, 333, and Carlos gets the extra because he's my guy.
Yeah,
I am John Rum.
John Robb.